Despite a setback since reports first surfaced about the coronavirus, the stock market is on a tear. If you invested $100 a year ago, your investment would be worth $120 now, giving you a return that's more than 10 times the rate of inflation. Trump uses that and a few other key measures to suggest that he has ushered in the strongest economy in the history of the United States. Fact is, he's wrong, but let's stay with the stock market for a moment. If you were invested in the S&P 500 from January 2018 to January 2019, in the same period but just a year earlier, you'd have lost money because of Trump's trade war, a fact he never mentions. And it's only because we were starting from that lower base that you've seen the outsized returns that we've seen in the last year. Let me go back in time to clarify the point. If you had invested in the stock market from January 2008, when Obama took office, to the following January during the Great Recession, you'd have lost 37%. Move your investment exactly 1 year later, investing in January of 2009, and by January of 2010, you'd have been up by 29%. The market bottomed out on March 9th of 2009 during the Great Recession. And if you chart the market from then to now, the trend over time is entirely consistent. A little more than half of Americans own stock, but most Americans own very little of it. According to research from a New York University professor, 84% of all stock owned in America is owned by the wealthiest 10% of households. Regardless of whom you credit for this performance, one thing is for certain. Most Americans get their income from wages, not the stock market. So, wages are jobs. Let's talk about jobs. The unemployment rate can be a bit of a red herring for reasons that we can discuss another time, so I prefer to concentrate on the actual number of jobs created. On June 14th, 2015, before his election, Trump said, quote, "I will be the greatest jobs president that God ever created." I assume he meant the greatest number of jobs would be created under him. Since taking office, 6.7 million jobs have been created, part of an unbroken string of months in which jobs have been created dating back to October of 2010, when in fact Barack Obama was president. So far in the Trump presidency, 191,000 jobs have been created per month. Not bad. In the 4 years that preceded him under Obama, that number was 217,000 a month. Much better. Donald Trump either hasn't kept his promises or isn't telling the truth, or both. But what matters is that in the election of 2016, he tapped into an undercurrent of rage felt by people who saw the economy growing and stock prices rising. They saw the pie getting bigger, but their piece of the pie was shrinking. Trump promised he would change that, and he hasn't. Because despite these great numbers, wealth for the average American is stuck. The American dream seems to be on hold. A large percentage of Americans are not equipped financially to handle an emergency, let alone a health crisis or the loss of a job. And wages are not up in a manner that reflects our staggeringly low unemployment rate. Millions of Americans have 2 jobs. Some still work for $7.25 an hour, the federal minimum wage. Many oppose a $15 minimum wage. You know, that's an annual salary of $31,000 a year. 15 million households, that's more than 40 million people, do not know for certain where their next meal is coming from. 30 million children in America get free or subsidized meals at school. 500,000 Americans sleep on the streets at night. That is what Trump calls the greatest economy in history. We have miles to go before we, the people of the richest country on earth, can truly say that capitalism is working. But saying capitalism is broken does not make you a socialist. To prove my point, this capitalist is going to talk to another much smarter and more famous capitalist after this break about how to save capitalism and make it better for everyone.